She's clearly among the most powerful women in business. It's such a pleasure to have with us here at the NDTV studio in Davos. Chanda Kochhar, thanks so much, ma'am, for sparing time to talk to us. What's the sense you're getting here in Davos, both in terms of the global economy and how the world is viewing India?
Well, I think as far as the global economy is concerned, mood is much better than what it was last year.
Right.
As far as the entire Eurozone is concerned, I think the financial markets are looking much more stable.
Sure.
The governments seem to have found a way of working in a more coordinated manner and seem to have found a way of balancing, the fiscal tightness as well as providing for segments that need the money. So, but of course, they're not very clear where the next round of growth will come from. I think the banks have to still get fully to the Basel III norms. So I would say there is the risk of downside seems to be away.
Right.
But yes, I think there's not much clarity on where the upside will come from.
All right, no clarity on the upside. And let's shift our focus to India, because that's been another huge cause of worry, the sharp slowdown that we've seen, the policy paralysis. Do you think some of the recent measures that the government has taken is showing up in terms of the image, the perception of India changing on a global platform?
I think two things as far as India is concerned. There is definitely a very positive mood around the recent announcements that have been made. So I think that's creating a whole lot of positive mood. But at the same time, I must say that the world expects India to do better than what we are doing.
Right.
Yeah, I think they all believe that India has a much larger potential, and they actually want India to move and get to those rates of growth.
Many actually feel that we've lost precious time, we've lost that economic momentum in the last few years, and it will be very difficult to cover it up very quickly, because even at least for this government, there's a very limited time that is left. Do you share that pessimism? Do you share that concern that we have limited time to cover up for what we've really lost in the last few years?
Well, the fact that we have lost, I always say that because, every time we can say that 5.5%, 6 or 6.5% is very good vis-a-vis the world, but it's not close to our potential. So yes, I think every percentage of GDP lost is a loss in that sense. But my feeling is that covering up should not be very difficult if we really get our act right. Because fundamentally we still have the demographic dividend still playing for us. Fundamentally there is demand for every product that we may want to produce. But the biggest challenge is that we need to create an environment where we allow production to take place, where we allow projects to get completed,
right,
and we allow the revenues to start. So I think if we get our act right, restarting and re-kicking and getting back to the higher levels of growth should not be very difficult.
And part of creating that environment is also about perhaps lower interest rates. And we know there's been enough talk about how the Reserve Bank of India has actually refrained from easing up monetary policy, from cutting rates. Do you see it finally happening next week?
Well, first, I think I should put on record that, a regulator's job is a tough job. They have to find a balance amongst many parameters, and I think that's what they've been doing. But from here on, I do expect that there would be some rate cut in the January policy itself, that is in the next 2 or 3 days.
Right.
How much, I think
that's the critical bit. How much, are we expecting a 25? Are we expecting a 50 basis point? And that's where the real division is. I think most people are expecting the rate cut to happen. What's your take?
See, my view is that over this next 15 months, that is up to FY14, we should actually see about 100 basis points rate cut. Maybe it will start with a 25 basis points this January.
All right. What about how would you react to those who say that it's coming a little too late, the rate cut, and also the kind of stress we've seen between at least the Finance Ministry and the Reserve Bank of India, where there's been an increasing call from North Bloc to have gone ahead with a rate cut much earlier, saying that yes, the government has done its bit and it was the RBI's turn to have responded and they did not. How would you respond to that?
It's very easy for us to keep responding to what someone else is supposed to do. So I would really not get into that. But I would say that for our economy to move, there are many things that we need. So interest rate, a lower interest rate is definitely one of them. But also, it's not just that only interest rate will bring back investments. I think, to bring back investments, we also have to focus on actually making sure that the existing projects that have been completed, they actually start seeing cash flows. Those power projects where fuel linkage is a problem, they get their fuel linkage. those projects, those mines where environmental clearances have not come, they start coming. So I think, for the economy, we need the entire ecosystem to move and not just one factor or the other.
And that brings me to the point, if that ecosystem is actually moving, there have been some important measures like the Cabinet Committee on Investments. How critical are those measures, and do you see that entire system moving? Because we have focused on some reforms like FDI and others, but many believe that we need to do a lot more on actual execution, on projects taking off, some of those points that you were mentioning.
Yes, indeed. I think the, the moves on FDI, etc., are very good for the medium and long term. But, here and now, we actually need to get projects moving. The concept of this Cabinet Committee, I think it's great, because what we need is really, a holistic approach to every project and say that these are the 5 things that are required to make the project going, and let's get it going.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.